Hey, what's up, mortals? It's FalonEcho here with a new video for you. Welcome to day 3 of 5 Nights of Terror. Be prepared for chills and thrills as I tell you this one-shot story of what if Deku were a werewolf. I just wanted to greet you guys by just saying, sit back and relax. You're in for a special Halloween treat. So we begin. A howl echoed in the distance. The mocking calls of a crow imitated the beast. Cold wind nips goosebumps to skin and rustles the autumn leaves. The campfire crackles warmly, and its warm light illuminates the young campers' apprehensive faces. On this quiet, starry night, the full moon shines bright. Young Midoriya shivers, bringing his figure of All Might close to his chest. Camp Counselor Ragdoll lowers her voice, filling the campers with dread. The wolf stalked the girl from the shadows, covered by thick, humid fog. A broken twig to the left, a crunch of gravel to the right. The trees surrounded her from every direction, claustrophobic and domineering. Poor little Red Riding Hood held her grandmother's food basket with a vice grip in her sweating palms. The forest ambiance added to the tense atmosphere. Midoriya's heightened senses picked up a quick movement out of the corner of his eye, or the slightest sounds of movement. Maybe it was the wolf, Ragdoll would suggest, her sarcasm lost on oblivious kids. She continued. The door to her grandmother's cottage was slightly ajar, and the infinite darkness within the wall screamed with warning. Little Red Riding Hood crept forward. Her pale and slender hand felt against the splintered wood until it landed upon a light switch. The light switch clicked on. Ragdoll paused and all the campers leaned forward in anticipation. Roar! Camp Counselor Tiger burst out from the brush, wearing a cheaply made mask of a wolf over his head. His deep voice growled out like a real canine, and it shook the campers to their core. Their screams caused the crow to fly away, mimicking the cries as it flies. Ragdoll burst out into laughter so intense that she fell back onto her back and rolled around in the dirt. That was absolutely hilarious, Tiger! Did you see the looks on their faces?
That was so worth hiding in the bushes for 20 minutes.
The campers collectively rushed Tiger and began retaliating against his jump scare. He laughed as their punches were absorbed by his playa-body quirk. As the counselors worked to calm the frenzied kids, they failed to notice the one whose viridian hair often blended into the background of the forest. Izuku Midoriya was 5 years old and was one of the many kids attending the Wild Wild Pussycats week-long autumn training camp. They worked with youth who had just developed their quirk to learn how to control their power and prevent quirk-related incidents in adolescence. The thing is, Midoriya was quirkless. Diagnosed a couple months earlier, he had a hereditary impossibility to develop a quirk. Despite this, he had begged his mother for days in hopes that he could attend the training camp. But now that he was here, he realized it was a mistake. He was severely isolated and bullied by the other campers, and wasn't able to participate in any of the quirk-related activities. He sniffled and wiped away the tears from his cheek. He was afraid, cold, and alone. After being scared by Tiger, his first reaction was to run. And run he did, because now he had no idea where he was. His shaking hands held onto his All Might figure like it would actually protect him from any danger. The full moon stood proud above him, and he followed where it led him. Midoriya eventually stumbled upon a small clearing within the forest. Moonlight illuminated the corpse of a crow laying in the center of the area, like a divine offering. Curious, little Izuku forced his tired feet forward. He crouched down next to the bird and stared into its glossy eye. He picked up a twig and poked the unmoving body. Flipping it over, he saw deep gashes along its side. Claw marks. He suddenly felt exposed in the moonlight, which shone upon him like a spotlight. He dropped the twig and began backing up from the body, rapidly scanning the trees around him. He saw a glint of yellow eyes watching him from the darkness. He heard the rustling of something rushing between the trees, shrouded in darkness and too fast for his eyes to keep up with. A deep growl behind him shook the ground, hot and moist breath against his neck. The boy whipped around and saw nothing there. Sufficiently panicked, he ran as fast as his legs could take him, tripping over uncoordinated steps. He felt shallow breaths ghosting over his neck. He didn't dare turn around or stop. Unfortunately, Midoriya was only a kid. His legs could only take him so far and so fast. An uplifted root caught against his foot and pulled him hard against the ground. His All Might figure flew out of his hands, perfectly polished paint scratched and muddied against the ground. Tears naturally welled up in his eyes. His fresh cuts stung against the frigid air. His scraped hands pressed against the ground as he pushed himself up. He attempted to put weight on his foot, but pain shot through his nerves like a lightning strike, causing him to fall back onto the ground. With a limp, he stumbled over to his fallen figure. He bent over to pick it up, but his blood ran cold when he noticed the glowing yellow eyes staring directly at him from the shadows. He turned to run, but was harshly tackled back onto the floor. Midoriya's screams echoed throughout the forest. 2 strong paws held him down as a set of teeth tore into his skin. Blood splattered against the All Might figure. The beast was vicious, growling aggressively as he took a chunk out of Midoriya's shoulder. All Midoriya could do was scream helplessly as his body tried and failed to escape from the wolf's grasp. Midoriya was quickly losing blood and his consciousness began to fade. Despite his senses dulling, he heard the loud boom of a gunshot. The wolf screamed a high-pitched whine as its body collapsed onto the ground next to Midoriya. He got a good look at the creature before it scrambled off into the night. Bright yellow eyes and a coat of snow-white fur, unfitting for the climate. Most notably, it was large, much too large than a wolf should be able to grow. As the creature ran, he noticed how it had no tail. A girl around his age rushed up to him with the smoking barrel of a gun in her hand. The girl vaporized into colorful particles as she held out her hand over Midoriya's wound. White bandages flowed from her palms, and she quickly went to work to dress the wound. His entire body was freezing cold, yet a fire was spreading in his veins. His skin was unbearably itchy, like a colony of fire ants took residence within his bloodstream. The girl spoke to him. "Don't worry, you're okay. The werewolf is gone now." Her voice soothed Midoriya's anxiety, but the pain still made him writhe. Despite the boy's movement, she dressed the wound to the best of her ability. She flipped Midoriya onto his back and saw the name card on his chest with the summer camp logo. "You must have crossed the boundary between the Pussycats' land onto my family's land." Midoriya only groaned in response, reminiscent of a dog's growl. She heard the rapid footsteps of her parents approaching as she shamefully turned to face them. The girl's name was Momo Yaoyorozu, a descendant of a long line of hunters of the supernatural. Long before the rise of quirks, supernaturals, eldritch creatures, SCPs, any sort of mystical creature or occurrence has terrorized humanity for generations. Vampires, ghosts, werewolves, you name it, the Yaoyorozus hunted. Momo had been trained from a young age to be just like her parents and rid the world of supernatural beasts, but she had just let one spread its lineage and infect someone. Midoriya gradually started to feel better. Odd, considering he was just mauled by a giant wolf. The girl called it a werewolf, but Midoriya didn't quite know what that was. He scratched at his arm and was shocked to see a thick set of hair. Fur? Coating his skin. His entire body was uncomfortably itchy. The urge to scratch dominated his senses to the point that he was unable to hear the conversation that was happening beside him. Momo begged, "Please don't kill him. It's my fault he got infected, so let me take responsibility. He's only dangerous during full moon, so I'll make sure he's secured each month so they can't hurt anybody. I promise." The parents whispered amongst themselves uncertainly until they eventually turned back to Momo and nodded in affirmation. The mother approached the young boy and injected him with some sort of tranquilizer. The itchy sensation slowly faded, and consciousness soon followed. This video is sponsored by ExpressVPN. ExpressVPN allows you to change your IP address, making it harder to track and securing your privacy. In addition to providing safe passage through the web, you can also expand the reach of your favorite streaming services like Disney+. If you're from the United States, you won't be able to watch any of the MCU and Sony Spider-Man movies. But by switching your location to Japan, you can access them whenever you want. Check out the link in the description to get 3 extra months when you purchase a 12-month subscription plan that costs $99.99 a year. This deal is for a limited time, and thanks to ExpressVPN for sponsoring this video. Midoriya stared off at the vast acres of land that stood before him. Never in a million years did he think that he'd ever return to this place. But here he was, standing above it all. Back at the wild pussycats training camp. The cool evening wind blew through his hair as his eyes retraced the steps he took a decade ago. The night that changed his life forever. A lot has happened since he was bit. He and his mother were put under the protection of the Yaoyorozus to prevent Midoriya from being killed by other supernatural hunters. He continued school as normal under the guise of a wolf quirk holder, hiding the true nature of his power. After turning into a werewolf, he gained heightened senses equivalent to a wolf's. His physical abilities improved too. He was faster, stronger, more agile, and had more endurance. He had sharp claws and teeth, night vision, and an enhanced healing factor. He becomes stuck in wolf form, much stronger but completely feral and lost of humanity until the sun rises. Despite what happened to him, Midoriya still dreamed of becoming a hero. He vowed to use his new abilities to save people, and he hoped to one day control his feral wolf form. After much hard work and studying, he was able to make it into his dream hero school, UA. It was now the summer of his first year, and the UA Hero Corps students were at the Pussycats camp for some summer training. It was supposed to be a pleasant surprise for the heroes in training. The Pussycats knew what had happened to him that night, and they did their best to not make things awkward. After a grueling day of training, Midoriya found a cliffside hidden away from everyone. He originally wanted to have a moment of silence, but then his senses picked up on a strange feeling in the air. It wasn't necessarily one of his physical senses, but a nagging in the back of his mind that urged him to look out into the forest. He scanned the vast amounts of trees before him, but was taken out of his thoughts when he picked up on the sound of rapid steps of Momo ascending the mountain.
Izuku, there you are! The sun is about to set. We have to get you secured.
Midoriya was used to this routine. Every month, Momo Yaoyorozu would lock him up like a dog in a cage and keep watch over him during the full moon. It was for his own good, but tonight he felt different. The strange feeling he couldn't quite describe was telling him to resist. Maybe it was because he was back where it all started. He breathed in the fresh forest air and spoke. "Can I have just a couple more minutes? I just want to think for a bit." Yaoyorozu looked at him sympathetically and put a comforting hand against his back. "It must be hard being back here, but we should get going. We don't want anyone finding out about our secret." Midoriya sighed. "Yeah, I know. I just feel weird, I guess. It's hard to explain, but I feel like something or someone is calling me into the forest."
Midoriya, be careful. That might be a forest siren.
"No, I don't think it is. Maybe... Never mind, it's probably just me. Let's get back to the room." The sky was transforming into a beautiful collage of orange-purple hues as they walked down the mountain toward the cabin. The Pussycats had prepared a storage room just for Midoriya to be caged during his transformation, and Aizawa was told it was for night training. He entered the cage and let out a pained "Ow!" as his skin grazed the cage's bar. It was made of pure silver, a werewolf's kryptonite. On the bottom was a blanket covering it to create a layer of protection and comfortability for him. She created a padlock for the cage and locked it, then took a seat on the other side of the room. She usually used it as an opportunity to spend more time studying, but tonight she was especially tired. She had spent the entire day pushing the upper limits of her quirk, and her body begged for sleep. It felt as though her eyelids weighed 100 tons as they forced themselves closed. She spoke out loud. "Okay, I'll just rest my eyes for a bit. I'll just listen." She heard the restless shuffling of Midoriya moving around in the cramped cage, and low growls erupted from his throat. Her head fell limply forward as sleep won the battle over her consciousness. Momo jolted awake to the sound of broken glass. She shot out of her chair and ran over to the window, whose glass pane was now scattered across the floor. The cage's bars were bent apart, allowing room for Midoriya to escape the cage and jump out of the window. His half-transformed body lay bleeding on the other side. Alerted by the sound of broken glass, the entirety of the cabin rushed into the scene. Concerned students and teachers surrounded Midoriya, but he growled. "No! Don't look at me! Get away!"
Aizawa spoke first. What's going on here? The teacher reached out a hand, but Midoriya swatted it away, revealing his half-transformed form to the class. They gasped in shock. He was hunched over, body rigid and tense as all of his muscles were contracting and changing. Fur was erupting from out of his skin and spreading across his body. His eyes glowed an unnatural green and yellow, and his ability to speak in coherent sentences was greatly declining. Leave! I'll kill you! Bakugo forced his way to the front of the crowd and grabbed Midoriya by his shoulders. Hey, what the hell was happening to you? Midoriya snarled and viciously slashed Bakugo across his chest. Blood splattered against the students as they screamed in horror. The blonde cried out in exasperated profanity and fell to the ground, clutching his slashed heart. No, Kachan! I didn't mean to! The hero students instantly grew defensive and attempted to restrain Midoriya, pinning him to the ground. He thrashed around instinctively, his transforming body contorting underneath the pressure of bodies holding him down. Momo cried, Stop! You're hurting him! Kirishima yelled back, No shit, we're hurting him! He just attacked Bakugo! The other half of the students surrounded Bakugo, attempting to stop the bleeding. With every heartbeat, more blood leaked out from his chest, and his vision was blurry with tears and shock. The gashes were deep, and the moonlight made his blood shine. He kept muttering words soft and incoherently, and his eyes wildly searched for something in the stars. Momo strained as she created various medical supplies for the heroes to treat Bakugo and said, We need to put Midoriya back into the cage before he fully transforms. Kirishima yelled angrily. Then what? Are we supposed to forget that he just did that to Bakugo? Pretend that he didn't just try to kill him? Hell, what if he dies from this? What then? She pleaded. Please, he's not in his right mind. When he's a werewolf, there's no way to stop him until sunrise. Werewolf! While the class argued, Midoriya was barely holding on. The sun had well past set, and his inner beast was clawing its way out. Tears flooded his glowing green-yellow eyes, afraid of who he'd hurt next. It was like he was on the edge of a cliff, holding on to a single rock with just his pinky finger. His body ached so badly he shook uncontrollably. But then he snapped. A guttural roar escaped from his lungs as his arms and legs turned him quadrupedal. All parts of his skin were covered with a thick layer of fur. His face elongated into a snout, and his facial features changed into a wolf's. The transformation was slow and excruciating as every fiber of his being fought to hold back. But he lost that battle, and his consciousness took a back seat with the wolf taking the wheel. Midoriya, now significantly larger and stronger, escaped from his classmates' grasp and ran off into the woods. Ragdoll cried out, He's heading towards the mountains! We have to hurry! There's a hunting village on the other side! A group was about to run off, but Uraraka noticed Momo staying behind. Yell, Momo, we have to hurry! No, this is my fault! I created that cage using my quirk, and I was so tired after all that training that I wasn't able to make it strong enough. I haven't. I'm a failure as a hunter. I'm a failure as a hero. Momo held her hand against her cheek as a faint stinging emitted from her nerves. Did you just slap me? Get a hold of yourself. I have no idea what's happening right now, but I know that if we don't catch Midoriya right now, bad things are going to happen. You're the only one who knows how to stop him. So are you going to sit around moping or come with us? You're right. We should go. Now. The pussycats stayed behind to take care of Bakugo. The majority of the students were either too scared of the rampaging beast or too concerned about Bakugo to leave. A small group of students left, with Aizawa and Ragdoll accompanying them. The group ran with Ragdoll, who led the way with her search quirk, until they stumbled upon a small clearing in the forest. They crouched in the bushes to hide from him, and Momo whispered, There he is! The green wolf stood in the middle of the clearing, sniffing the air and walking in circles like he was looking for something. Uraraka urged, What are we waiting for? Let's go! Ragdoll grabbed onto Uraraka before she ran off. Wait! There's something else out there! Wolf Midoriya suddenly looked to the side and was tackled by a white blur. A jumble of growls and snarls filled the clearing as a mass of white and green brawled on the floor. The white wolf clamped its jaws against the back of the green wolf's neck, and he retaliated by slashing it across the face. Crimson red stained the pristine snow-white fur, and the beast jumped onto Midoriya. Momo quietly loaded silver bullets into the gun she created using her quirk. The wolves were quickly exchanging attacks and dodges. They never stayed still for a moment. The group silently watched as she raised her weapon to the pair. The gun moved amateurishly as she attempted to focus her aim on the target. Her hand shook with nerves as she pulled the trigger. Back at the cabin, Kirishima held onto Bakugo's cold hands. The sound of a gunshot ricocheted off the trees. A howl echoed in the distance.
Thank you all for indulging yourself in this story with us today. I hope you enjoyed it. Now, there are a few more things that I'd like to go over before the video ends. Firstly, I'd like to thank our patrons, BD Flames, Ethan Davis, Terry Chills, Shifter Milas, Adam Zagil, Zavbeat03, Zill, and Joshua Phelps. Secondly, I'd also like to thank all of our YouTube members, Toya Costa, Rob the King, Sith Lord 906, CF2364 and Knuckles, Romeo Tempest, Angel Juarez, Donald C. Stewart, Bryant Greer, and Refik135. Thirdly, if you're in the mood for some great storytelling, We the Celestials has you covered. Our We the Celestials, My Hero Academia, and Naruto What If channels retell the story of their namesake anime with a twist. Check it out if you're interested. Fourthly, on behalf of We the Celestials, I'd like to thank everyone involved in today's excellent content production. Their details can be found in the description below. And lastly, if you're interested in what we do here at We the Celestials, I'd like to extend an invitation to join the team. The only caveat is that we only accept members from 16 years of age or older to join our crew. You can sign up for whichever category fulfills your interest by joining the recruitment Discord, using the link in the description below. We're always looking for members to join us. Well, that's it from us for today's video, so thank you all for watching and have a great day.